Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's EcoLogic podcast. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and today I'm excited to have Rei Vardi on the podcast. He is the founder and CEO of Eon, a company that is building a national mobility platform. He's renting, I believe, privately owned electric vehicles and taking the hassle out of renting cars. He's developed a national platform with 300 plus cars at this time in 30 cities. Rei, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Ted, how are you? It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. And you just told me that you're in Tennessee now, but your headquarters is in New York, right?
Yes, that's right. Currently on a team retreat, getting everybody across the country together. But normally HQ is New York.
Oh, fantastic. Now, this national platform or national mobility platform, what does that mean? That's pretty broad.
Sure. So basically, what we do at Eon is we make it as easy as possible for you to share your car with somebody else. The whole thing started, back when I was in college. I was 22 years old, and my dad had one of the first Teslas that came out. This was back when Teslas was like, light years ahead of everything else. And
Yeah.
so he wanted to sell the car, and me being in love with the vehicle, basically told him, look, I'll do anything to keep the car in the family. Why don't you give it to me and I'll figure out how to pay you the lease? So by some miracle, he agreed to give me the car. And immediately I realized, how am I going to pay this $1,000 a month, leasing bill
Yeah.
when I have no income? And so I had the brilliant idea of starting to rent out this car to other people in the neighborhood. And brilliantly, I discovered that I was a dummy, because that ended up being maybe the worst decision I'd made in my life up until that point. Um, yeah, straight off the top, the car was getting scratched, dented, smoked in,
Huh.
not brought back on time, if at all. One time it was used to rob a bank. So basically, anything that you can imagine
God.
could happen in a car, happened in this car.
All
And
right.
that's
Now
not like
I would
very.
have been discouraged if I were you. But keep going with
I,
this story.
I was more embarrassed and humiliated, and didn't want to come back to my dad and say, "Hey, I messed up. Can you bail me out?" So it really, like, the pieces started to fall in place um, at that point, where I started realizing why people don't share their car. Right? People don't share their car because, unlike a house, something that you might share on Airbnb, a car is just so much more risky, right? You
Yeah.
can't take
Yeah.
someone's house and drive it to Mexico, right? It's not like you can, use someone's house to rob a bank, but people were doing that with my car.
That's
And
real. Yeah.
so I started to realize, okay, how can we make it so that, we take the risk as much out of sharing these cars as possible? And if we're able to do that, then we might actually be able to monetize these things. One of the things that, people kind of implicitly understand is that cars sit empty and are collecting dust in your driveway 95% of the time. But there's no real way to effectively or safely share it, because as soon as you
Yeah.
get it into the hands of the wrong person, the whole thing becomes completely moot. You lose way more than you can make. And so what we do at Eon, just to kind of bring it back, is that we solve
Yeah.
that problem. We make it so that, Ted, if you want to start sharing your car and making some money and turning this liability into an asset, we make that happen, where you can continue on with your life the way that you want to live your life. Continue on with podcasting, continue on with, your hobbies, your interests, without becoming the world's tiniest car rental company, while at the same time keeping your car safe, uh, and allowing
Well,
you
let,
to monetize that car. So,
let me ask you that question because I've got two EVs sitting right now here in the garage, and they are
sure.
generally they're like you said, 90 or 95% of the time they just sit there. How do you
Yep.
de-risk? How do you make sure that my EV, if it gets onto your platform, is going to be safe and sound?
Of course. Well, the most important thing is that we fundamentally rethought the model of sharing, right?
Hmm.
Basically, anywhere else you want to share a car, you're opening up a marketplace, and you've got yourself as the supplier and your guest as the demand. And in basically any marketplace model, you really kind of leave it to the supplier and the buyer to figure it out. And in a car scenario, I mean, this is the problem, right? Ted,
Yeah.
you're an amateur. You're not an expert car rental
Right.
enthusiast.
Yeah.
and the guest is there's somebody who probably doesn't even have their own car, let alone is somebody who is very well versed and experienced in rental
Could be a
cars.
crappy driver too, pardon my French, right?
Everything could happen, or they could
Yeah.
have criminal intent. Like, this is an issue. So now
Yeah.
you're dealing with two amateurs, right? I'm
Mhm.
saying, Ted, you're an amateur who has the car, and the guest, he's an amateur who's going to drive the car. Oh, put them together, see what happens. Well,
Yeah.
in that scenario, it's the equivalent of you giving that guy a gun and then asking him to bring it back on time,
Yeah.
not damage
Yeah.
it, not hurt anybody, and like cross your fingers. So what we do at Eon, first and foremost, is
Yeah.
we take the people out of the equation. We make sure that these amateurs are not involved in the car rental process. What makes us different from basically any other marketplace or place that you might share your car, or really any
Mhm.
other asset, is that we connect directly to the car and we manage the entire rental from start to finish at the car level, not at you, the owner level, not at the guest level, but the car level. So what that means is that you and the guest actually never communicate. We handle the
Mhm.
whole thing. Because we're able to digitally integrate with the vehicle, we're able to see where's the car, what's the current status, what's the tire pressure, what's the health maintenance status. We're able to manage that entire process for you. And then process the guest through all the education, all the verification, on all the onboarding the way we want to do it, not the way that you, Ted, might or might not know how to do
Yeah.
it. And so what ends up happening is that you're, as the owner, are very happy with the situation because you get to lay back, relax, sit in your hammock, and make some additional income without lifting a finger. Meanwhile, the guest gets what they want. Bad guest doesn't get to drive because we're able to filter them out.
Yeah, how do you
Good
filter
guest
out
does.
how do you filter out the bad guest? That the criminal, the guy that wanted to rob the bank using your own car.
Sure. Well, a lot of that's proprietary. Unfortunately, I want to
Okay.
give you like much more insight into that, but that's part of the thing that makes us successful. Uh,
Do you do
outside of just our domain.
more than a normal car rental company?
Much more, a lot
Oh,
more.
much more. Okay.
It
Mhm.
has it has a lot to do with, um, we're validating who the person is at the time of rental. We're looking at
Mhm.
previous models of how drivers have driven with us before.
Yep.
But I won't go again and further into that because a lot of it's proprietary. At the end, though, let's say that the person is a good driver. What
Yep.
what they end up having is an experience that really doesn't exist anywhere else in the rental space. They walk up to the car, they check in, their phone becomes a Bluetooth key, so it doesn't even need internet to work, and the car automatically unlocks. They get in and they go, and that's it. And throughout the entire rental, if they need help, if they run into an issue,
They call
they don't
you.
even need to bother you. They
Yeah.
can bother us because we're able to see where's the car, what's going on. The car is what's reporting to us. We don't need you to.
And you only rent EVs, correct?
Yes, only EVs.
And are they only Teslas and Rivians and Lucids, or do you take other forms of EV?
We're continuing to expand the inventory that we're accepting.
Yeah.
Um, but at the moment, those are the three brands that we support. But we're going to have a lot more support this coming year.
Gotcha. And in terms of price, then how do you determine the price? And can you rent a car for one day, or is it always a longer term rental?
Of course. No, you can definitely rent the car for one day. And in terms of price, the owner gets to decide at the end of the day what the price is, right? It's your
Oh,
car.
really?
You
Oh, really?
decide what makes sense to you. And so, of
Oh,
course,
that's
the guest gets to see that price too. And he says, this works for me. This doesn't work for me. And so you still have control. You still have a
yeah.
marketplace style model, but it's fully managed. The risky parts are managed so that it actually works for everyone.
God, that is great. Now you claim, and I believe your claim that this is about the easiest way of renting a car. I got to tell you, just last week I was in Miami Beach. I needed to rent a car for one day, and
Hmm.
I ended up going from three different car rental companies. Well, it was a big weekend down there, it was spring break, and everything was busy. And I
Oh
ended
my
up
goodness.
getting a reservation, and my gal and I had to wait in a line for 45 minutes just to get the car.
Wow.
It was a crazy mess, but you have obviously no offices, right? I mean, nobody
Right.
goes to a car rental place. Um, Talk about that process. And I think I told you in the intro there that we were before we jumped on. that I was just in New York, and I had an Uber driver who was explaining to me that he has 3 or 4 Teslas that he participates in your program, and he says, I bring the car to where the customer wants it, and I pick it up from where the customer wants to drop it off. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. So the guest gets to choose whether or not they want to pick it up at the car's home base location, or if
Yeah.
they want to have it delivered, they just pay an extra fee and then they can arrive straight where they want it to. The airport, your office, your house, whatever works for you. Um, so that 45-minute process that you were talking about,
Yeah.
that right there, we pride ourselves in being able to get you in the car in 45 seconds, not 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You show up to the car, you get in, you go. It's really that simple. And what's more than that, you mentioned something else that was really relevant here. If you're jumping across 3 different rental locations,
Yeah.
that's a nightmare for you. You've got a 1-day trip, you have to be somewhere. That's a hell of a headache.
Yeah.
With us, you don't even get to that situation ahead of time, because even if you book a car and there's some kind of issue with the car, we see that automatically way in advance. So let's say you have, an owner that has their car up on the platform, but they completely forgot that there's a trip starting today.
Mm.
They're across town, they're using it to buy groceries, whatever.
Yeah.
The cool thing is that our system knows that Ted's coming in at this time to pick up this car, but the car itself is not there. We can see it in our system.
Huh.
And because the car is not there, we can say, hey, Ted, this car is actually not available. We're moving you over with, some courtesy credit for the inconvenience to another one nearby. And guess what happens to your day? You still make that business meeting. You still are able to get into the car and get going in
Yeah.
45 seconds. You don't have your entire day, destroyed because somebody either at the rental office or some host on a platform forgot that there's a rental today.
Amazing. Amazing. So now I just want to drill in a little bit on the pickup. So here I am. I'm in Glendale, California. Let's say somebody wants the car at LAX. So if I decide, yes, I do want to go ahead and with this process, I would have to drive the car to LAX and then find some other way to get home, right? I mean, is that sort of the way that the drop off and the pickup works from an owner of the vehicle standpoint?
Sure. Look, most owners have, especially those that are actually using this as a full-time business,
Yeah.
have, entire systems and teams that they operate with to make these deliveries happen. But this is the beautiful thing, is that you
Mm.
don't have to participate or make your car available for delivery. You can say, you can just come, if you want my car, you can come pick it up from, my house here in Glendale, and that
Yeah.
works perfectly fine. And we've got a lot of partners that do exactly that, and they're doing just as well.
That's interesting. Now, you did mention that the term partners, and I saw that on your website. Um, so you've got some people that might have a single EV that they want to use in the program. But then others, like the guy that I mentioned to you in New York, he had 4 or 5 Teslas, I think. He
Yeah.
had turned that into a business. Are many of your partners becoming a business like that?
That's actually exactly what's happening. When we
Yeah.
first started, we were almost exclusively just working with 1 or 2 car, individuals that were just trying to make an extra buck. And
Yeah.
now a lot of those individuals have become full-fledged commercial operations. Um, People have scaled from 1 car all the way up to 40 cars in a year is what we've seen.
Really?
And we
Really?
and we have and it's grown beyond that. It's not just, individuals that have turned it into a side business, but actual existing businesses. We have full commercial car rental companies that now use our platform to gain a big chunk of their business. And some of those companies have, literally thousands of cars that they're renting through our network. So we've got the entire gamut. The thing is
Mm.
that when you solve it for the little guy, if I can make it so that Ted earns a buck and can, turn his car into an investment,
Yeah.
that same principle actually works for the big guy too.
Mhm.
And this has been our philosophy from the start. If you solve the problem for the people who need it the most, then
Mm.
it solves it for everybody. And when you solve it for everybody, that's actually how you move things forward when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to EV adoption. You got to make it make sense.
Yeah. Now, is it right that you've got about 3,000 cars in your network now?
Yeah, a little over 3,000.
And is your dad pretty impressed by what his kid pulled off here?
my, my my dad, if you ask him, he'll still make fun of me for missing a few payments early on in the business.
Well, now what about you and Eon? No desire to own your own vehicles as well?
Oh, of course. I still own a couple of vehicles that run on the platform. And when I started, this never started off as an idea to, make sharing vehicles for everyone accessible. I was just trying to solve the issue for me.
For you,
You know,
yeah, right.
yeah, I had a small little fleet up in Boston, and I was renting it out of my dorm room, and I was, struggling to figure out how to make the business work. And when I solved it for me, I had people reach out to me and start to say, "Hey, I've got a Tesla. Can you rent that out as well?" And that's kind of how the idea percolated.
Right. But now of those 3,000 cars, almost all of them are privately owned or owned by a corporation or somebody other than Eon.
Yes.
Might Eon also create a fleet going forward?
Well, we definitely can, and the unit economics are really favorable. So,
Mhm.
obviously we make even more profit on a per dollar basis for the vehicles that we would own, because
Yeah,
now we're making it both as a platform and as the owner.
yeah.
But the reality is that our efforts are just much better utilized in scaling the platform.
Right,
We
right.
we grow much more quickly when we're focused on one thing really well, which is to make it a better platform for everyone, as opposed to being focused on, making it a great platform and, managing a fleet of cars.
Right, right. Now, I think I read that you bootstrapped this whole platform that you were I
Yes.
think you weren't you at Boston University when you were in the dorm room? Is that where you were? Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right on Mass Ave there in Boston, and
Yeah. Yeah. Are you
that
familiar? Did you go to BU?
I didn't go to BU, but I've been around Boston a lot, and we had EcoMotion had an office in Cambridge for a while, but
Wow.
so you never have had to raise capital.
Well, I tried. I'll be completely honest with you. In the early days, when I first realized, this is gonna be a hit, um, I did, and I did it the right way. I flew out to Silicon Valley. I didn't have
Yeah,
any money to stay in a hotel, so my dad had this old minivan too, so I slept in that for 2 months.
yeah.
And every day I'd go to the gym, and I'd start the day at the gym and shower and brush my teeth
Shower there.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was pitching, I was just going to investor after investor after
Mm,
investor. And this was around 2021, 22. And I just kept getting no after no after no, which is definitely a story that you'll hear very often with a lot of founders.
startups, yeah.
But the reason that I was getting a lot of no's was because, the reality is that this industry has a lot of failed businesses in it. There's a lot of startups that try to make a big punch in mobility,
Mm,
but other than the big ones, Uber, Lyft, those ones that really kind of entered in and managed to stake a giant piece of the pie, it's a really tough business for tech. And the
mhm.
reason is that tech investors are so used to seeing um, very fast iteration, very fast customer growth. And really, they have marginal cost of operation, right? They're able to scale very, very quickly because the cost of growing from 10,000 customers to 100,000 customers is marginal.
Yeah,
That's just not the reality when it comes to mobility. Because in mobility, you have real operations. You have people that, have to drive cars, clean cars, maintain cars. There's a lot more that goes into it. And so a lot of these investors had been burned by so many startups that had tried to make big strides in the mobility space and just completely crashed because the unit economics were dead, right? You've got so many startups that pitch this big vision of like, we're going to save the world, we're going to change the world. They get a ton of money, they scale super, super fast. And then what happens at the end? They don't have any unit economics to support it. The entire process is built on a dream, but not on actual sustainable capital that's coming in.
mm, mhm.
And so I kept running into this issue by investors that had kind of learned their lesson, right? And
Yeah,
saying we're not gonna throw more good money after bad. and at that point, with along with some additional drama that happened with, co-founders coming, leaving, coming again,
Hmm. Hmm.
I just decided, look, the unit economics are here. If we have to build it slowly, we'll build it slowly, but we're wasting our time trying to get someone to believe in this. Let's just do it.
Hmm.
And so after those, 2 good months and a lot of pitches, came back to New York and just started building.
So now, how many years are you into this process?
This is an 8-year business at this
Oh,
point.
really? Okay. And you're in
Yeah.
30 cities. Is that right?
50 plus now. Yeah.
50 plus cities. Um,
Yes.
and so if a listener on of this podcast hears about this business model and is excited like I am, how do they find out whether their city is covered?
Oh, you can sign up anywhere in all 50 states in the US. When we say we've got 50 cities, that just means here are 50 cities that you can go look at right now and book a car. But you could,
Mm.
wherever it is that you are in the US, you're welcome to get started right away.
But then I presume that if it's not one of those 50 cities, the cost of getting an EV is through Eon is going to be quite a bit more, right?
Again, it totally depends on the owner. So
Right.
one of the
But
one of
if
the
that
really cool
owner has
things.
to drive a couple hundred miles or 100 miles to drop off the vehicle, that's
Oh
going to
no,
be a
he doesn't. So again, this is a misnomer. You get to set not only what your rates are, you get to set where the pickup is.
yeah.
So you're just listening. It's like Airbnb. Your house,
Yeah.
if you're in Boise, Idaho, shout out
Yeah.
to Boise, Idaho.
Yeah.
If you want to get started, list your car where the car is right now, and I'm promising you that there's going to be people in Boise, Idaho that need a car over the weekend or whatever it is, and your car is going to be available for them to book, or maybe travelers that are coming in. It
Yeah.
costs you nothing to get that started.
I see. And then you mentioned this is a minor point, but you mentioned the cleanliness of the car. Um,
Mhm.
do you have certain standards that owners have to adhere to in order to be part of the platform?
Of course. I mean, if you want to be part of the network, one of the things
Yeah.
that Eon does is that we're not, like I said before, we're not a traditional marketplace. So when you book an Eon, you're not seeing Ted's car. You're seeing Eon. You're seeing the exact model and the spec,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you're booking that car knowing that we're doing the work ahead of time to ensure that that experience is going to be uniform, consistent, safe, up to
Yeah.
standard, etc. And so as an owner, there's a responsibility that comes there too. We have a
Yeah.
whole, presentation on expectations from the owners on what they need to be able to maintain and what level of standard we expect from them in order to stay on the platform. And owners that fail to maintain that just get kicked off right away.
Right. And I take it that a user gives feedback, must give just like Uber, right? You provide
All the
feedback
time.
on the experience on the car, et cetera. Um,
Absolutely. And if
yeah.
for some reason the experience was not up to par, we go through heaven and earth to, make sure to uh, make sure you're taken care of, make sure we get another chance to give you an even better experience next time.
Yeah. Let's talk about charging because a lot of people that non-EV drivers,
Mhm.
that is their biggest fear. They're going to run out of charge somewhere. So,
Yes.
how do you educate your customers about that and allay those fears and teach them? By the way, I just lent my nephew and his wife. They're visiting from Vermont. I just lent them one of our EVs, and they've never had an EV, and they know gas stations, but they don't know. So I had to go through this process. But how do you, as a company, educate prospective users?
Of course. Ted, that's an excellent question. And it's one that early on we realized was going to be a barrier for us.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
think.
and, s- and so what we realized is, again, this goes back to that same story that we talked about at the beginning, where if you're an amateur and somebody is also an amateur coming to rent your car, you guys are in chaos mode. Nobody knows what's supposed to happen. There's no consistency.
Chaos mode. I
This,
like that.
this is where we take it over. When a guest books with Eon for the first time, before they get to the car, we give them all the education they need. They go through a very quick 2-minute tutorial where
Yeah.
they see visually here's how you charge the car. Here's where you charge the car. Here's where your charging adapter is going to be. Here's everything that you need to know about operating the car, whether it's how to turn on autopilot, how the door handles work, how to lock the car, how to,
Yeah.
where some people are like, where's the on button on these
Yeah.
cars, right?
Yeah. Right.
So we just make sure to get them through everything that they need right away. They can always access that again. And that alone, we have found, has
Hmm.
reduced the number of times people are calling support about questions with the car or bothering the owner, from like almost to nothing. And then furthermore, after they go through this tutorial and check-in, we give them everything that they need to know about the rental generally. And by the time they actually arrive at the car, they have everything ready to go. There's no memorization. It's always accessible to them, and it's a piece of cake.
Oh, that's great. So let's imagine it's a Tesla. I presume you teach them that they've got to download the Tesla app onto their phone, right?
Actually, they just have to have the Eon app on their
Oh,
phone,
really?
which they
Oh,
already
really?
do because they both do.
Okay.
That's it. That's the only thing they
That's
need.
it.
We're
And
not
and
getting.
then that will show them where all the Tesla charging. I'm focusing on Tesla just for a second here, but that'll show them where all the Tesla charging stations are?
It's actually easier. In the tutorial, we show them how to find it in the car's map. And as you know, with the Tesla, when you're navigating, it will actually navigate you automatically through those superchargers.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to pull your phone out of your pocket. It's just built straight into the car's navigation.
God, that's great. That's great. And I would imagine, because people are always thrilled once they are in an EV, once they have that sense of acceleration that an EV has. And of course, as an owner, you realize you don't have to there's almost no maintenance for an EV. But I would imagine you're doing the whole EV industry a great service of introducing EVs to non-EV drivers.
Uh, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but
Yeah,
I will say
I'll pat
one
you
of
on the
our
back.
one of our proudest statistics is that
Yeah,
45% of our rentals come from returning customers. It's
yeah,
become so easy when you use the Eon app for the first time and you get that experience where the car really just feels like it's your car. It's like taking your car with you to another city or another state when you're traveling.
yeah.
That's the vision, and that's what we've been able to build, and that's borne out by, the fact that most of our rentals are returning customers.
Yeah, good stuff. Congrats, congrats. And I imagine now you're 8 years into it, you've got a lot more headroom to flex out to scale your model or your network, I guess you call it. But I was sort of thinking early this morning, as I do, it's dangerous time for me. Uh, might you be expanding into delivery trucks or drone rentals in the future, or boats and planes? I mean, where are you going? I guess you guys are on a retreat right now, so probably some of these very longer term visions are surfacing. But can you answer that question?
It's a fantastic question. The reality is we want to stay focused at what we're really good at. We
Yeah.
think that the consumer car rental space is fundamentally broken in so many different ways. And what we're providing is just a breath of fresh air from an
Yeah.
industry that historically has been one of the most hated industries
Yeah,
in the
I
country.
hate
Like
it. I hate
n-
it. I hate it.
no
It's true.
no one has a worse rep than car rental companies, like
Yeah,
everyone
right.
has a nightmare story at a car rental company. and
Yes,
and we
they
just
do.
think that that's what we're good at. What we learned early on, especially as a bootstrapped company, is not to get distracted by big lofty ideas of things that you're not an expert in. We
Mm,
want to stay true to our mission. We have so much room to grow, so many more cars to make Eon compatible, to bring onto the platform, and to make this entire industry shift in a direction
yeah,
that's more sustainable, more affordable, more convenient. That's what we're good at, and that's what we're going to continue to focus on
yeah.
until until basically this industry moves to the next stage.
We hear that term disruptive. You have your business model is disrupting the old business model. I don't like that term because you're not disrupting it. You're just producing a much, much, much better experience. And so I thank you for that. I'm curious. Um, Born and raised in Westlake, California, I believe. Went to BU, bioengineering, biomedical engineering. this seems like this Eon venture seems like the last thing that was on your brain when you're a younger man.
Yeah, my entire life I thought I would be a scientist. That
Yeah.
was like, my heroes were Watson and Crick. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but life takes a strange turn sometimes, and
Yeah.
I found myself in a position where I was really frustrated with a lot of the bureaucracy I was seeing in my first job. At a research hospital back in Boston.
Yeah.
And I had this baboon around my neck with this car that was costing me $1,000 a month I couldn't afford. And I just said, you know what? I'm never gonna be this young with this few responsibilities. Why not give it a shot?
Yeah.
And here we are. My most life defining decision was, just wanting to be the cool kid in college with his dad's car.
Yeah, what a great story. And always ask our guests, how do you maintain balance? I know you were into Taekwondo. You did theater when you were at BU. You're a scuba diver. And I love that you did some early work or volunteering work with poverty alleviation. Are you maintaining a healthy work-life balance at this point?
Look, look, a lot of those hobbies that you listed, unfortunately, I don't have the time for as much as I did.
I
But
was wondering.
I'll tell you, look, I'll tell you the secret though. Like I don't think I've ever been in a happier stage in my life than where I am now, and I give it fully, I fully credit it to the people that I work with.
Yeah,
I've been so blessed and lucky to
yeah,
have the most incredible team that anyone could ask for. And so what that means is that like the thing that I get most excited about every day is sitting down at them at the first meeting of the day, cracking a few jokes and then talking about what we're going to do that
yeah,
day. That's just been, call it a workaholic attitude, but there's no burnout
yeah, yeah. You're thriving.
when
Hey,
you're
Ray,
having
thanks.
this much fun doing what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Surround yourself with the right people and do something that you care about and you can really sink your teeth in. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks much for being on the podcast.
It was totally my pleasure. It was so much fun talking with you, Ted. I'm really grateful.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's Ecologic. We'll see you next time.